Greetings everyone, Arcimedes here, and welcome back to another brick-filled LEGO video. Today, we're going to be taking a first look at my latest mecha model, the Exosuit 2.0. So, let's take a look, shall we? Here is the Exosuit 2.0. Now, this particular hard suit or mech doesn't really fit into my Thunderstrider universe. It more represents the general exosuit that might appear in any science fiction book or movie. In fact, I think it bears a striking resemblance to the Ironmonger, which is the mech that Obadiah Slane pilots in Iron Man. As the name suggests, 2.0, this is the second version of this kind of hard suit. The first version was a very little lame model that became the basis for my Iron Hammer Iron Fist. And click on the link in the description if you want to see that. This model represents where I've come from that lame little hard suit that I built 2 years ago. And I have to say, I really like it. As someone who likes to have mecha fighting on his desktop, I think that this will be a perfect addition to that battle. Let's start out by taking a quick look of the features of the model, and then we'll take a closer look at how I built it. As you can see, it has an assortment of weapons on its arm. It has Iron Man-esque repulsors and machine guns, and big heavy fists with the nice ram on the top of them to smash through enemy armor. On the top, you can see that there's a rocket launcher, and on the legs and feet, if you look closely, you can note that there are rocket thrusters so that it can leap and jump and fly. As an aside, I've never really thought that big, heavy mecha should be able to fly, because if you think about it, they would have to move so painfully slow through the sky, like one of the NASA's rockets with all the boosters on them. They don't look particularly graceful. Powerful, perhaps, but you can't really think of that thing trying to attack a base silently or stealthily. Rather, I imagine this robot as leaping long distances, maybe 40 or 50 feet, landing on the rooftop building and decimating everything in sight. There's really not much I can say about this model in terms of story or all the different uses of its weapons, for example. So I'm going to move on now to how I designed this model. I honestly didn't mean to design this model. I had originally planned to make a customizable microscale strategy game, like chess, only more destructive, for this November's episode. However, as I was building one of the pieces, a frog bot, I kind of lost interest in it, and without meaning to, began designing this mech. I was sitting there for a while, not really thinking about what I was building, when all of a sudden, I found in my hands a semi-okay looking model that rather resembled the little hard suit I had made, which was the prototype for the Iron Hammer. As I looked at my little half model more closely, I realized that I had, almost unconsciously, solved some of the design problems that I had had in the original prototype. I now had a set of legs that were able to move backwards and forwards at the hip, and arms that were slightly more stable and much more usable for different tools and weapons. I then started reworking the prototype. The chest was my first and hardest piece. I used several clips and attached robot arms to them with pistols here to make the frame for holding in the main core of the chest. To make the curve of the torso, I used the nozzle pieces and attached an Erling brick upside down on them with a single cheese wedge underneath. That enabled me to turn them sideways slightly, put a little more angle onto them in both directions, which generally smoothed out the curve. I then had to come up with something to make the abs of the robot, since I wanted it to look fairly muscular. In the end, I used these two motorcycle handles, clipped together with these, well, I don't know what to call them, but I thought they made a decent muscular look. I then dropped the steering wheel over the top to culminate the chest, and I was complete. I attached the chest to the basic leg assembly I had made before, and then dropped these hoses along the side, attaching from the torso down to the feet. It gave the transition a little more rounded look, which was something that a lot of my mecha models have lacked. I used a basic stud for the connector and joint at the arms, since they wouldn't have to hold a lot of weight. The trickiest part, though, was doing some shoulder armor. In the end, I used these robot arm pieces, and then attached this T-joint to hold this other hose in place, to make the legs and arms semi-symmetrical. Once again, using hosing provided a nice smooth transition in between the shoulders and the arms. For both the arms and the legs, I used these jackhammers and these space guns to create a slightly more greebled and a slightly more mechanical look to it, as if this robot was a skeleton without having the complete armor over top of it. I pulled together a similar look for the feet, using this robot torso to hold the whole thing together. Finally, I flipped around to the back and added a little bit of armor and attachments to the back, so you could still see through to some of the mechanisms if you wanted to. And then also attached this movable rocket launcher. And that, my friends, was the exosuit. I rather enjoyed making this model just because it was kind of a change of pace from my usual planning to make something and then making it, like with the Argo or with the desktop Minecraftians. Here, I just got to stand back and let my imagination do the work for me. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you liked this model, and my video for that matter. I hope that it was interesting or informative. I hope that the robot looked really awesome. If you did in fact like this video and my model, then please comment, rate, and subscribe. Tell me about it. If you didn't like this model, or my video, or if you have some suggestions for either, please tell me. I would love to know what would make this channel and my model different and better. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I bid you all farewell. My name is Arcimedes36, and I'll see you next Sunday.